and we need to prepare the organization for the future. Anyways, that's Richard Wolf. Just before coming here, this is Ken Gale.
Wow.
He's already on M&M. Look what this guy is doing.
Oh, I don't know Ken
He
Gale.
has a show, says 99.5 FM. He does the Environment TV, M&N1, and he's already doing it. Many of your colleagues are already doing it. ESPN does it. They all do it. So this is the idea that's behind us. Again, the idea is we think we can make WBAI sustainable. We believe we could turn it around with a multimedia business strategy, if you will, to make it sustainable, to add staff. We're not interested in cutting programming. We're not interested in censoring or targeting anybody. You have your policies, your WBAI programming policies, whatever they are, whether you're allowed to have dirty laundry, you're not allowed to have dirty laundry. You can attack Trump or not attack Trump, whatever it is your policies, we'll follow those. But the essence is to create that multi-platform strategy. So I don't think I really have much more to say that broad outline. Of course, this would all be subject to if Pacifica is interested, and that's a big if. I understand the issues at Pacifica and M&N and all that kind of, there's a lot of jazz out there, but we want to see BAI succeed. I will tell you frankly, at M&N, many of our colleagues are very concerned about the future of WBAI. We're not an island at M&N. We know if there's an injury to one, there's an injury to all. And the loss of WBAI in such a historic and important organization would be tragic. But let me also say that this initiative that M&N is putting on the table is not to rescue WBAI. It's about creating a positive new vision for community media in the future to succeed. And we think by coming together, we can do that. So thanks for coming out. I'll take questions.
Actually, Pam's gonna.
Oh, Pam.
I've been asked to call on people, so please be kind to each other and also to me. All right, we'll start with you.
Me?
Yes.
Yes. I didn't hear anyone mention that M&N is owned by Turner.
No, M&N is not owned by Turner.
Affiliated with Turner?
No.
That's what I read.
Maybe,
Well, let him answer
why
the
don't
question.
you re-explain
I read
the
that it
way
is.
in which M&M is funded.
Which is CNN. So,
So why don't you wait a moment, just let him explain.
Manhattan Neighborhood Network is a private 501c3 nonprofit corporation. We are not owned by any cable company. There's
there's no affiliation with Turner. I wish I
No.
had brought my papers, but I definitely read that there
Yeah.
is.
No, there's no affiliation with Turner, and we do not have a contract or any business relationship with Turner. We do have a contract for funding. We are funded, I'm not sure if you were here, I was explaining, when you go get your cable bill, you see a little line item that says $1 for fees or public access, depending on your cable bill. And you'll see it says $1 a month from your cable bill. It might be listed, it may not. Maybe Verizon or RCN or Spectrum listed differently. They take that $1 a month and they send it quarterly to Manhattan Neighborhood Network. So we are in fact funded, absolutely correct, by the cable industry in New York City, in Manhattan. That is correct.
Do you have any information about your financials to show how you actually are funded for us to see?
Yes, those agreements with the,
That was a struggle for many years to make sure that there was space in the community to produce media. So explain that regulatory norm.
yes, it's a little bit of ancient history, and I'm sure there are those in this room who can better elucidate it than I, but going back several decades, there was a struggle that if you use the city public rights of way, like if you use the public airwaves in radio, that there should be a set aside for the benefit of the community. So in radio, it's often on the left-hand side of the dial with the nonprofit allocation for public broadcasting, or in
Which
broadcasting.
we lost because Pacifica failed to do an audit, right?
Okay.
Okay,
Oh
yeah, I
my
don't know
God.
what I
Okay.
think of. But similar in cable television, in the cable television industry, there was a struggle for decades to get the cable companies to fund community media on cable television. The same rough idea, except in cable television, it's often referred to as public, educational, and government access television. And as a condition of doing business in cities and municipalities around the country, cable television companies, or big media conglomerates now, have to grant, may be required to grant finances, cash payments, and channel capacity to either local governments, local educational institutions, or local nonprofit organizations to air cable television programming. So that's how we're funded,
Can you-
but we
can you
are an
post your
independent.
financials?
Okay,
funding.
we're gonna move on. Everyone calm down. These are all important questions, and they do need to be answered. You're not the only person with these questions. I've seen a lot of emails, but we have the answer that we're going to have for now. If we want to do more research, we can. I think we're gonna go first to the green shirt, the green sweater, and then the blue vest, and then I will get to you in the maroon jacket.
Green
Yes, green sweater. Tell us your name and speak.
John Brinkley.
Okay,
I'm
John.
a former board member. The transition, you said after a few years, it would be a transition back to BAI. You also mentioned that right now, with the partnership, it would be a multimedia, the way of getting out to the public. What would happen at the end of the transitioning back? What would BAI be left with?
Right.
Good question.
Well, the proposal that Pacifica put out 4 years ago, and I don't know if that would be the same, but they suggested an 8-year term, if I remember correctly. That is that you would have a management agreement with, Pacifica Foundation would have a management agreement with Manhattan Neighborhood Network for 8 years, upon which the station would return to the direct management and operation of the Pacifica Foundation. So it's not like the Chinese deal with Britain where they had to give up Hong Kong for 150 years. But it's a period of 8 years.
Not
BAI would go
150.
right back to Pacifica. It would be a contract. You have to understand, we would enter into a contract with Pacifica. M&N and Pacifica would have to agree on that contract, like a business agreement. And both sides would, I'm sure, have their different issues. But if they were to resolve them, one of them presumably would be the return of BAI to Pacifica, at which point Pacifica could do what it, just reintegrate back into Pacifica. Hopefully BAI would be strong and steady then, but you never know what might happen in 8 years. Maybe maybe the arrangement is working out real well, maybe other things happen, but hopefully the idea is that both M&N and WBAI are stronger because of the partnership, but technically, when you have a management agreement like that, BAI would go back to Pacifica, and then Pacifica would make the determination about what it should happen to BAI in the future.
Yes, contracts can, by the way, contracts can always be renegotiated. But my question and concern is this. I can understand how the multimedia platform is the answer today to a lot of problems with media. What concerns me though is what part of the demise of WBAI has to do with its own actions and way of being. For instance, we know we're living in a time when people in general are getting tired of excessive partisanship, ideologuing, name calling, and things of this nature. So I was wondering if you, because you've been involved with Pacifica and WBAI, have any idea as to what part WBAI has played itself in its demise, apart from the digital level of marketing now that takes place?
Well, my views on that, I wrote about it in 2005 when I was the president and CEO. They haven't changed. And if you wanna know what I said back then, I think they probably still apply today. I think there has to be and there will be, you know, in my view, a change in the culture of the station and of the organization if it wants to survive. I think that has to change the culture, but that doesn't happen overnight. And there has to be a commitment, and there has to be all kinds of different commitments. But I think that with a fresh start and a new opportunity, and yes, there may be some bitter pills. I'm not saying that being under M&N, I mean, it sounds oppressive. It's not oppressive, as you can see. It's not like you're gonna have a dictator, you know, it's not the end of the world, as you can see what goes on here. I shouldn't, I'm being erroneous in my language. But look, it would be, I think, a new opportunity and a new chapter to rebuild WBAI, and not necessarily a total clean slate, but a real opportunity, and people would have to work together to some degree to make sure that the station succeeds. And at Manhattan Neighborhood Network, we're also, you know, we have management, we have business office, we have rules. You come in, you see a code of conduct, you know, all that kind of stuff you'd have to follow, but they're not anything that you already don't know about. And they're not particularly onerous, but basically our core value is mutual. This is a place of education, of creativity, and mutual respect. And as long as we all follow that, we're all good to go. So I think from a cultural perspective, yes, there may be some changes necessary, and I think it would be healthy, but I think there will be a new opportunity to succeed. And my hope, just like when I was executive director, there was an exciting new vision for Pacifica. In 2001, 2002, we instituted a membership structure. If you remember, WBAI in 2005, when I left, you know, it was the 12th largest public radio station in the country. Had weekly cume of 347,000 listeners. It was the largest Pacifica station, had $4 million in revenue. It was also the most diverse public broadcaster in the country in terms of its audience, as well as its composition of the staff and the board. It was an extraordinary, and still is, obviously, an extraordinary institution in the life of this city and the life of this country. And that is a history of a 50-plus year history. And I don't think I think that history can be drawn upon again. We see Mario, people like Mario around, you know, all of you who've been involved with BAI and Pacifica. I do think with a new, fresh opportunity, a new vision, an idea of how a media strategy might be successful. I'm not going to say it's going to be successful. You don't know. You don't know if it's going to be successful, but at least it's a strategy. You know, at least we're going to say you've got to be multi-platform. There's another strategy or two one could go on. I'm not saying it's the be-all and end-all, but I think it gives an opportunity for impact and success that may be a way to move forward.
I'm Sharon Salama. I'm on the present board.
Can't hear you.
Sharon Salam. I'm on the present board of WBAI, and thank you all. Okay, now my question is this: as a nonprofit organization, I know you all have to put in certain types of financial disclosures that are available to the public. For those people who are interested in who's funding what, where would they go to look up the paperwork so that they could put their mind at ease?
Thank you for that question. There's two, I would direct you to two sites. The first site is, if you want to know the contracts that we have with the cable companies, they're public. So all our money, what we get, the terms of our contracts, whether they can censor us or not, whatever the relationship is with their cable companies, totally open, totally transparent. They're on a site called, on the City of New York's website. It's under an agency called the Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications, or DOIT, Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications. and they will have all the cable agreements on that website. And you just look up the Manhattan one, and you look up the cable access agreements. I think it's Appendix 1. It's right there on their website, and you can download those contracts. You probably see my signature on them. All of our contracts for all the money we get and the terms of that contract. Then as a 501c3, we are required to make disclose all of our financial information, which is very detailed, and those are typically available on a website called www.guidestar.com or .org, maybe guidestar.org, and you can either look up Manhattan Community Access Corporation or Manhattan Neighborhood Network, and you could see everything you need to see on that. So please feel free to go to both websites and look us up, and scrub us down.
In fact, I think we should add some links on the savewbai.org site so that all this
That would make
information
sense.
is easily accessible. And I'll look them up and I'll get John to make it happen. I saw Naomi first. Who else has questions? Okay.
I do.
You'll go next. One and two.
Dan, could you clarify, were you the executive director of WBAI or of Pacifica?
No, it's the formal title is President and CEO of Pacifica Foundation.
But not of BAI?
No.
Okay.
Okay, right now, BAI does not have a news department. Would that be restarted once, and if the PSO became real between M&M and WBAI? And once the partnership, the terms ended after 8 years, would the broadcast still be able to be, would BAI shows still be able to be accessed
On the cable TV.
yeah?
Yeah, that would be subject to some kind of negotiation. I'm sure both parties at the end of the agreement will probably sit down a year from the end and say, hey, is this working out? Is this not working out? I'm sure there'd be a mechanism for dialogue anyways throughout the process. There's certain requirements in those kind of operating agreements that both parties would have to adhere to. There's presumably be a lot of communication between both parties. But effectively, what Pacifica would be doing is hiring a manager in the form of Manhattan Neighborhood Network, and there would be an ongoing dialogue. So, don't know how that would turn out, but it would seem probably likely in some form or another, if the relationship is working smoothly. If it's not, then two parties divorce and move
All
on.
about their business.
Your first question, sorry, was
The
Oh,
news. We don't have a
Yes,
news.
I think, from my point of view, I come from a news background. I think BAI's tradition has a strong news and current affairs background. We also, BAI has a strong tradition of programming around those key day parts of the morning drive time and the afternoon drive time. And certainly, financially permitting and et cetera, that current affairs and news and current affairs tradition of WBAI, we would like to strengthen, for sure. Let me also just add one other thing to that, because I neglected to mention that the type of relationships that could develop with WBAI and M&M and other independent media partners that we have, I think could help us get something like news and current affairs back on WBAI. By that I mean the Rick Wolf example I showed you. Rick comes in, he does his show on the air, you give it to BAI, goes to all the community radio stations in the country on audio port through the Pacifica affiliates program. We also upload that show to our national program partner, Free Speech TV, that goes to 30 million households on direct broadcast satellite. That's why Richard has 46,000 views on one show on YouTube. So through that kind of partnership of local media, of radio, of TV, of direct broadcast satellite, a national partner, there could be synergies that create the conditions by which it's much more practical and affordable for a WBAI to launch programming that may not be available by itself. So I think looking at partnerships, program partnerships is an area, but I also want to stress that even though we have that relationship with Free Speech TV, the local character that MNN brings, the local character that WBAI brings, I think is a difference maker, and I think it's something that needs to be strengthened. Local news, local current affairs, as well as the global picture that WBAI has always brought.
One more question?
There's-
One more?
Okay, one more question.
One more. Right now, BAI does a community board announcement. What would happen with that if somebody wanted to make an announcement about an event that was happening in New York City? Would they come here, or would they still have to go to?
No, BAI,
Brooklyn.
there would be a BAI office at MNN. It would be like, you have your general managers, program director, the development office. That's what would happen. There would be a BAI department, if you will, or organization, or structure. We wouldn't, all that would happen is that you'd be in a studio like this, doing a radio show, but it would also go on TV, just like Ken Gale is doing here. Now, would you want to enhance the video experience? Yeah, you know, there may be some producers, or B-roll, or audio roll, audio tape that you like, or a scroll. That's all great. So in other words, it's almost like importing BAI. You build a structure around it, but it would be, BAI would exist. It's not getting dismantled. So if you have a community bulletin board, and I don't know if there is one or not, you would go to your public affairs department and say, I've got a community bulletin board, and that department would schedule it like they might do now or did in the past, or whatever it might be. I'd also say, you know, that's incredibly important for the BAI to continue to succeed, or to succeed in the future.
The woman, you were saying.
I have two questions. One, I just want to say I've been listening to WBAI since I was 19. For 18 in my teens, so since the late 1990s. I'm in my 30s now. What I've gained from WBAI is diversity. It's not only like the political talk that we have on the free speech radio. First time I heard Miles Davis was on WBAI. David Rothenberg, who has done so much for those who have been incarcerated who are out. He used to be on every Saturday morning. Democracy Now! Which I do actually watch on MNN at 6 p.m. on my DVR, sir.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, but I do miss it on WBAI. First choice indigenous radio. I can go on and on. Gary Null. I'm now a vegan. I've been vegetarian since 2005. And I have to ask you. I know we're talking a lot about TV programming and things like that, but what statistics are showing, people under the age of 25 don't even own a TV. And even a higher majority don't even subscribe to cable. So can we talk about social media as like a serious like foundation and platform, not just to like socialize or gossip, but as far as younger people, we have money too. And I'm buying ethically made clothing from kids in London because of Instagram. I'm learning vegan recipes and hearing about and trying to push Gary Null and WBAI FM. There's hardly a couple hundred hashtags on there. And I want to say I do listen to Richard Wolf on economic updates on his YouTube. He has 40,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel, and I'm looking at MNN, and you guys only have 3,600. So
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit more
We'd
about
love
like,
it if
social
Richard
media
could
and
transfer
can you talk a little bit more about live stream? And my other question was, what about the diversity in programming? Are we still gonna have that diversity, or only the popular shows like and so on? Thanks so much for the
Yeah, in
platform.
terms of the diversity of audience and diversity of programming, what I would stress to you without getting into any details is to continue very much supporting the history and traditions of WBAI as a local media institution with diverse audience and diverse programming. So that's important, as well as the sustainability piece of a future WBAI. So both elements, I think, are, they're not in opposition to each other. And I also do think that bringing that extra capability, you talked about Instagram or Facebook. So what would happen with this kind of integration would be a WBAI program like Ken Gale could go in and he could do a Facebook Live right off the cameras. Our cameras, right there, HD cameras, we have the capability of not only just going on Facebook Live, but you go on live stream and you could have chats, you could have chats online with your audience, you can take questions online with your audience. So, and it's much less what MNN can do. We only have 3,600 subscribers. Richard Wolf has 46,000. We are not really we're a platform. We're not a producer per se. It's a difference. We're like we don't, so we give the platform to Richard or you to do your show and to make of it what you can and you will. Certainly, if MNN or BAI or new WBAI has a news department, okay, they have a news department, they do their news thing, they have their goals and objectives, they get it out, they have their news program, they have to put it on the air every day at 6 o'clock or every morning at 7 a.m. or there has to be headlines throughout the day. Whatever the news department does, that's an objective reality they have to do and they have to produce every day. But other than that, other than the WBAI produced programming, it's mostly unpaid volunteers, whatever you want to call them, at WBAI. This platform gives those producers an opportunity to have impact in a way that they wouldn't have just being on the radio. So that's what we bring to the equation. That's why we think it's a difference maker and can be, at least create the opportunity for success.
Black hoodie, and then next we're gonna go right there, and then okay.
Yeah, Dan, I'm curious. You've made it obvious that you can sort of get aggregate numbers of viewership on the platform. Do you have any means to do it, break it down demographically, to actually see which communities or segments are being?
Yes, you do. You would. Just depends on how much you want to invest in that and how important you consider that. But certainly, the level of detail that an organization, a media organization, could get on its audience is pretty scary.
Okay, and the reason I ask, I mean, that's been a major issue with BAI over the last several years. Certain people construing who's listening, who's not listening, and that might be something.
Look, there would be
forward.
an initial investment from our point of view. We would not want to drive blindly. We want to know where we're going. We want to know where the audience is. We want to get arbitrage. We would want to strengthen the transmitter. We would do what is necessary to make sure the transmitter is working at full power. We would get the arbitrons. We look at the Facebook numbers, whatever it is that BAI is on, the streaming, the podcast, the Pandora, whatever streaming service or live stream, whatever it is, we would certainly, not me personally, whoever's involved in the leadership or staffing of BAI, but we would want to create that capacity for BAI because we would think that is absolutely necessary for its success. Those decisions would have to be made about what's affordable, what's not, what's the priority, what's not. We don't have the capacity to add 100 staff to BAI, not gonna happen, but the idea is to strengthen it and to particularly strengthen programming, administration, and development, and look at other new ways of development, digitally, off-air, even direct mail, all those kind of areas that traditionally BAI was very strong in when I was there 10 years ago, but may need to be renewed.
In the back, in the beige.
BAI is still behind the times, differently. I mean, even now they only have like 2 phone lines for several years. We have talkback shows on BAI and you can hardly get in. But let's talk about, yeah, but let's talk about, you said, in regards of podcasting, could BAI, this alliance help BAI develop podcasting for a lot of the programming? Because maybe some programming might not be on the radio, but maybe some stuff could be podcast.
Yes, there would be that capacity. I want to stress, though, that the community producers, you know, would have opportunities that they don't currently have today, and a lot of that would depend upon the community producers to take a leadership role in. MNN can't produce every single program or assist, you know, give that kind of, gonna make every single show into a podcast. I don't know, maybe it can with digital technology, I don't know, but it can't. What we're really, the vision that we're talking about is a vision of trying to give the tools and the platform necessary or not necessary, or a condition for community producers to succeed at WBAI. And by succeed, I mean not just for their programs to have impact, or to ensure that those programmers and producers are prepared for that programming, because it has to be a two-way street here.